People often look at the top end of a creek and think the creek starts there, when in fact you really have to look upstream further and to see the real beginnings of the creek is from the highest point of the ridge way back up there. That's where the creek starts.
So when water runs over and off a field, it takes a portion of what's on the field with it, especially in the springtime and during and after storms. And that can have repercussions for the streams and rivers and eventually lakes where the water ends up. That's why the Healthy Lake Huron partners are working to develop a rural stormwater management model.
Basically, we're trying to better manage the water runoff from our lands and rural areas so that we can reduce the amount of sediment that's ending up in the lake and reduce the amount of nutrients that end up there as well.
So nutrients getting into the lake actually results in increased growth in the algae in the lake. The algae getting on the beach can get rather thick at times, and it also ends up rotting, which becomes an issue for beachgoers, recreation users. It becomes not welcoming for a tourist to come to the area. The smell can be quite horrendous.
And too much algae depletes oxygen in the water, adversely affecting marine life. And last, but far from least, there are hundreds of thousands of people who depend on Lake Huron for their drinking water.
The water has to go into the lake, and that's the way it's always gone. It's what it carries with us that we're really trying to get a handle on and make sure that the water that's going into the lake is as clean as we can make it be.
The timing's now, farming's changing quickly, the climate's changing quickly, and it's something that we really need to get working on.
The Au Sable Bayfield Conservation Authority is leading the Rural Stormwater Management Model project in partnership with Public Health, Federal and Provincial Ministries, conservation partners, and Lake Huron communities. Lake Huron's southeast shore stretches from Sarnia to Tobermory. This rural area along Lake Huron includes 5 conservation authorities: St. Clair Region, Au Sable Bayfield, Maitland Valley, Saugeen Valley, and Grey Sable. Healthy Lake Huron has chosen 5 priority areas for watershed protection and improvement. These sentinel watersheds are Lambton Shores, Main Bayfield, Bayfield North or Gullies, Garvey Creek and Glen Drain or North Shore, and the Pine River watershed.
So the opportunity to look specifically at some smaller areas was thought to be a good approach. And what we did when we were looking at picked those smaller areas were areas that were perhaps not as degraded as some other outlying areas. So there was some potential for enhancement. We were also looking for areas where the community was asking us to make improvements, because really a lot of this work is working with the community.
We need the cooperation of the landowners, and we've been very fortunate in these 5 watersheds, because once the landowners understand where we're trying to get to and what we're trying to achieve, they really, most of them have bought into the idea that they can make a difference by making changes on their own land.
Nobody cares more about the land than a farmer. This land we're looking at right now was my parents' farm. So you have to imagine all this land was once bush. The farming practices stayed the same roughly for the 3 or 4 generations. Along came our generation, and that's when the biggest changes started to occur. So instead of having 5 or 6 fields on 100 acres, it's basically 1 field with 1 crop now. So with those changes, I became interested in stewardship because we were receiving reports that it was affecting our natural environment. And farmers all know you have to be good to the land if it's going to be good to you.
I'm Doug Rogers, standing here in Lambton Shores on our 6th generation farm, farming about 800 acres. The ground, once it gets saturated, then you have surface water running across the top, and that creates a lot of soil erosion. Alternating corn and soybeans, it used to be called crazy strips, for the purpose mainly is to control the soil erosion. And the benefit also, it maintains the soil, it holds it there. We've added some grass buffer strips at the end of the fields, and on some fields we've had to put in some grass waterways. So when we get a big heavy rain, it'll accumulate here, and we've created this grass waterway. And it could run in here up to 12 inches deep, 14 inches deep. So it's a lot of water moving. And without the grass, we would have a lot of soil moving, because there's just a natural water running way, and without the grass, we would be having a 1 to 2 foot rut every year to try and repair. And then that just tells you that the soil is moving out of the field and into the water courses, and that's what we do not want, because soil, especially topsoil, it's a top commodity that they just don't make every day.
My name is Murray Scott. I've farmed in the township of North Huron, formerly the East Walmarsh Township, all my life on land that our ancestors settled in the 1850s. We've ended up getting the runoff water from the fields potentially going directly into the stream and taking soil, etc. with us. So basically some of the steps we've made to improve that is to create berms and constructed wetlands that, number one, keep the water from running directly into the stream, and number two, hold that runoff until it can naturally work its way back into the through the ground into the stream. This is the I guess we call it a constructed wetland. Water that drains out of the cornfield behind me is directed into this pond, where it settles out and gets back into the main stream by underground filtration.
My name is Sebastian Kraft, and we're here on our 850-acre farm in Ashfield Township. We've had water runoff issues in the past, and we've gone to minimum or zero-till farming systems, and we have built up berms to control the surface water. So specifically, we were having trouble with surface water flowing across the farm, creating gully erosion essentially. And with being in a no-till system, the soil was protected to a certain extent, but not enough that we still didn't have gullies created in certain spots of the farm. Then we got approached by the Conservation Authority, and they came to us with a plan that would take the surface water underground and would account for all the waters coming across our farm. A contractor came in and they installed 5 berms in total, and quite a bit of piping, and they to essentially take all the surface water underground and minimize erosion. But it really takes a systems approach, because we were also taking on water from neighboring properties, and so it's a little more than an individual farmer can take on his own.
The Healthy Lake Huron Group, which I should mention, is unique in that it's a partnership of some 22 agencies that range from conservation authorities to federal government ministries to provincial government ministries, county health departments, county planning departments, and gets right down to dealing with the landowners. And the landowners, if they're interested and want to cooperate, it's an atmosphere that you can really make a difference in how you're going to be able to deal with things.
Yes, it has cost us some money, but in the grand scheme of things, if we didn't do anything, the cost would be much, much greater, and to society more so than the farmer himself.
We're all in this together, and time has shown that the more we work together, the more we can accomplish great things, and I'm sure that we will find a way.